Hey YouTube, I have another knife review for you today. This is the Blackhawk Be-Wharned knife. It's called the Be-Wharned because it is a Wharncliffe type of tip. That is basically the forward tip that is similar to a carpentry knife or a box cutter type knife. The blade length of the Be-Wharned is about 3.5 inches. It is Aus 8 steel. That is a less expensive Japanese stainless steel. The handles, or the handle scales I should say, are textured G10. The G10 gives a very good grip. The texturing on it, I would give it an A+ for the texturing. The price tag on this was around $60, and this knife was designed by Michael Janich. If you're not sure who he is, he's been a paid consultant for both Blackhawk and Spyderco. He's a martial arts instructor who has trained several basically agents of several different law enforcement agencies, police, DEA, that type of thing. He does instructional videos as well. He's very well known in the knife world and in the Filipino martial arts world. And Michael Janich advocates this Wharncliffe style tip design for his fighting folders. Now this blade is for uniformed professionals, law enforcement. I think the idea of it is that obviously it has a lot of utility function, being that it's the same shape as your standard carpentry knife or box cutter. So primarily, it would be a utility blade, but also the secondary emergency use, weapon retention, which is basically cutting someone that's trying to wrestle you for your sidearm. And as you probably know, Blackhawk does manufacture firearm accessories, tactical accessories, magazine pouches, all that. So it goes along with what who Blackhawk sells its products to. Law enforcement, soldiers, uniformed professionals, firemen, EMTs, security guards, or just a civilian that has his mind on self-defense and utility. Right, now here you see the texture of the knife. I am wearing gloves because this does pick up fingerprints when you open it, so I don't want to mark it up. But you see the texture of the knife. It's cross-hatch texturing. As I said, excellent grip. Here you see the pocket clip. It comes set up for right side carry, tip down, but it is a 4-position clip. All right, so it can be right, left, tip up, or down. That's a very good idea since he is selling it to uniformed professionals. They need to be able to customize it completely. And you see it is open pillar construction. The opening facility, dual thumb studs. All right, how does it open? It opens fairly smoothly. You hear that click. That's very good. Right, you see the liner lock there. And you see that very, very impressive blade shape. The main difference between this and a lot of other Wharncliffes is that this section of the blade goes back much farther. In other words, it's much more pointed. It basically has an elongated tip. What that allows you to do is, unlike most Wharncliffes, I would feel confident in using thrusting techniques with this. Right, so tip slashing with the tip, obviously, but also thrusting and of course close cutting. That tip design gives you a lot of options, and I can see why he designed it like this. And one thing I would say, the detent on this, it has a very strong detent. It's definitely not going to come open in your pocket. I would actually prefer the detent to be a little weaker. And if you don't know what a detent is, basically there's a small crater in the partial tang and a small ball that fits in the little crater, and it kind of locks it, prevents it from opening, and when you open it you have to overcome the friction of that detent. Alright, so I would actually prefer the detent to be a little bit weaker, but that's no problem because you can actually just take a file and file down the little ball of the detent to your liking. Just don't file it completely off or the knife will swing open in your pocket. Now, if you're not familiar with this type of tip design, what are the benefits? Well, when you cut with a normal knife, you slash with the belly, but this obviously has no belly, so you would be doing what's called tip slashing. The advantage of a tip like that is that it bites in to the surface of the target. Obviously it bites in like one single gigantic serration, and you know, causes quite a bit of pain, and the tissue will bunch up, okay, as you go through it. If it's you know, if it's human or animal tissue, it will bunch up, so the slash that it produces will be longer than the tip itself is. And Michael Janich has actually proven that with demonstrations on pieces of meat, okay, so he knows what he's talking about. So would I recommend it? Well, if you do work in law enforcement or a dangerous job like that, yes, I would. If you want something of this size, 3.5 inches in blade length, the utility use alone, like even if you don't think you would ever use it as a last-ditch knife, just the utility use alone of that blade shape would be worth carrying it, I think. I mean, I often carry a Gerber EAB, basically a folding utility razor, in addition to my EDC knife. Well, if I carried this, I could consolidate those two items into one multi-purpose item. Now, I have to say, I was reluctant to try this knife. It actually took me over a year to decide to try one. I was just afraid that it might be kind of a gimmick, alright, because it is very unusual. But now that I have handled it and see it in person, I can tell you it is very well constructed. It's actually a lot higher quality than I was expecting. It is actually very high quality. The thickness of the G10 handles very thick, and it has full steel liners nested in the G10, so it has no blade play. I'm confident in the strength of the handle, and the blade itself is a lot wider than it appeared when you just look at it in like a still picture at an online store. You have no size reference, but I can tell you, seeing it in person, the blade is wider than it looks, and that is a good thing. It's basically, it's just a very substantial, intimidating, and effective blade. The grind, the tip, it's definitely, like, for its length, alright, it would definitely give you, let's just say it would give you a lot of options in very bad close combat scenarios. And with this tip design, you don't really need any sort of extensive martial arts training to understand how to use it. I think if you have good athletic ability and good mechanical understanding, I think you can just look at it and you can see that you could use it to tip slash just like a cat uses its claws. And also I think you can see the penetration ability of that tip. Now, do I personally carry a Wharncliffe style blade as a defensive folder? No, I have to be honest, I don't choose a Wharncliffe style blade, but I understand that this type of knife, you could hand this to a 20-year-old police rookie, and it would be very useful to him, okay? I guess what I would say is that even though I tend to prefer other types of tip design, if I were to use a Wharncliffe folder, this would be the one that I would choose hands down. Alright, so there you have it, the Blackhawk Be-Wharned knife. A very good knife for what it is. I'm very pleased with it for the price, and I hope I've given you enough information and enough of a close look at the knife that you can make your own informed decision to whether this would suit your needs professionally or as just a private citizen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for many more, and I am out of here. Peace out.